Welcome back to the Tangent. Today in the room we have the nice, lovely couple, the Hucks, Nick and Katie.
Hello, everyone.
Howdy.
And then we have Tim.
I'm not here.
Well, he's kind of here. He's here, but he's not here. And then there's me, James. Today we're going to do a subject that I've been kind of putting off, and I don't know why. I guess it has a lot to do with the fact that somebody in the room thinks he knows everything about it, and I keep avoiding it. But this is one of Nick's big favorite things in his life. He feels that it's something that really did something for his life, and I don't understand why. But we're going to talk about Ghostbusters. Very iconic movie. You can't beat the cast that they put together for it. Anything with that group of guys was going to do nothing but succeed. A couple of guys have been together in multiple movies. You got Stripes had two of the cast.
Mm-hmm. Gerald Ramis and Bill Murray.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Murray, and then then you can't. I mean, I can't say enough about the cast. Not just like the main four Ghostbusters, but some of the background cast. I mean, think about having. God, his name just eluded me. The little short guy with glasses.
Rick Moranis?
Rick Moranis.
Yes.
Oh my God. Rick Moranis is like one of those people that I wish never quit acting.
I
Rick
know.
Moranis is a national treasure.
Yes,
Absolutely 100%. I agree with that. I wish he had never quit acting. I wish he was still making movies because his movies were amazing.
He's coming back into it, did you hear? He's getting back into
Yeah,
it.
he has decided to try and come back in some capacity, which is.
But it might not be full on.
He did a commercial, and then he got punched by some random asshole in New York. I'm not sure if those things are correlated.
He was
No.
caught, by the way, I think.
Yeah, he was caught.
they eventually caught the guy, and apparently
The
he has
guy,
a history of random violence.
it was a literal random mugging, and
No, it was not even a mugging. It was just a guy with a history of literally doing this exact thing, running up behind people and punching them for no reason. Ran up behind him and punched him for no reason.
You know, and I mean, just to illustrate here for those who are tuning in and don't know, Rick Moranis, I mean, I don't know him personally, but just from what you reread, he's got to be one of the nicest guys. I mean, this is a guy who has kids. His wife got sick. She passed, unfortunately. God rest her soul. And he decided to do what any outstanding father would do. You know, he was pretty well set from, I guess, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movies and all the other movies. And he decided to...
He was pretty well set from doing a lot of things.
And he decided to take care of his kids and quit acting for a while. And I mean, I tip my hat to him.
oh yeah, 100%. Like I said, the guy is amazing on and off the screen. I mean, he was always one of those nice guys in Hollywood. You don't hear too many. Yeah,
it's very rare to find someone who is elected that they have enough,
Right.
and they just
Especially when it was at the peak of his career, too.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, he was literally at the peak of his career. He was like, "Honey, I Shrunk the Kids." Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Honey,
Spaceballs.
We Shrunk Ourselves. Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
I mean,
We could do a whole thing about that.
just
too.
him alone, and that's just one actor out of this movie. Okay, so this movie Ghostbusters with Bill Murray.
But before we go on, I got to mention one thing. Interesting fact. Rick Moranis almost never got the role. It was almost going to go to John Candy, but the director...
that would have been a very different movie.
Ooh,
No.
The director...
I don't have anything against John Candy,
I
but
don't
it definitely
either.
would have been a different movie.
Way different.
I mean, the problem he had with John Candy, if the way he interpreted it, he started doing the role and auditioning for it with a Scottish accent, so he was like, oh no. So then he went to Rick, and he's like, John was just like, I don't know about this. But anyway, go ahead.
So I mean, again, that's just one actor, and he's not even a main. He's a background character in the movie,
Very much so.
and he's an amazing actor. So you got your three leads. I'm going to count three for the first movie because we get a fourth, but he's not. He comes in about midway in the movie.
I would still call him a lead, and I think he plays a very important.
He
part
does.
in the
I'm not
movie.
saying he doesn't have a lead in the movie.
Not just in terms of like important, as in like in the story. Like he plays an important role in like the formulation of like the structure of the movie.
Correct. I'm not saying he doesn't have a lead, but we start out with just 3 of them, and they were all doctors of some kind, right?
They were all academics.
Well, Ray was the expert kind of in the occult, which Dan Aykroyd, believe it or not, actually transferred from real life, something him and his dad were into. Harold Ramis.
Dan Aykroyd actually does believe in a lot of random supernatural stuff in real life.
Yes.
In real life, yes.
He was, so he kind of was the visionary. Egon was the scientist and oh gosh, I can't say this.
Physicist.
Thank you.
So
And
yeah,
then Bill Murray was kind of the guy who introduced them, and
he was the charisma. He was the charisma of the group. He was the one. He was the face. Like, you have these 2 nerdy scientists that basically did everything, built the equipment, came up with how to do what they needed to be done. Bill Murray's character was just there to be the face of the group. To have his face out there. He talked to the cameras. He was the one that, promoted stuff.
He was also at one point in time unacademic. He was a psychologist or something.
He was a psychologist,
and then he got a TV show because he's a scumball, charismatic that manipulates people.
I don't know if you could say all that, but he had a lot of punchy one-liners, that's for sure.
He did. Well, so that's just the 3 mains, and then the 4th guy, for some reason, his actual real name...
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson. So he was kind of the non-academic guy that just kind of rounded out the group as a everyday person.
The average Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was normal guy, and I think that he's honestly one of my favorite parts of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
He has one of my favorite
it's
lines.
Ernie Hudson and Harold Ramis are my 2 favorite parts of that movie.
Right.
And the fact that, especially like later on, like Ernie Hudson and Harold Ramis are working together on like hardcore science, and like.
Right. Well, and then
freaking.
As he said in the very beginning, if there's just
the Twinkie part, and, it's like, and only one of them is an actual scientist, and the other one is just like it's a big Twinkie. And
Right.
It's like,
He's like goes along.
Let's
with
say
it.
this
It's
Twinkie
like,
I love his first line of the movie too. It's like, I will believe in
Anything
whatever
where
you
you
want me to
want,
believe as long as it pays.
as long as
You know
there's a
what?
paycheck, right?
But-
That's one of my favorite lines.
But what's funny though too about that is that even though he's just a normal dude and everything, and he does say that, he actually gets involved. He ends up getting involved in helping them
he
and
does have a
everything.
background, but I don't think they ever really say it. His background is not scientific; it's mechanical.
Yes.
That's right.
He's
yeah.
like he's got a lot.
He's a
to do with
tinkerer. He's somebody who likes to mess with
He was like
Right.
an engineer or something.
Yeah, he's like a tinkerer. So yeah, he might have been an engineer. So truthfully, he is an academic because engineers are very, very smart individuals. But
Right.
I wouldn't call them academics though.
But they're more mechanically inclined.
Yeah.
So he was
Right.
the mechanically inclined person in the group. Now, granted,
Nothing against engineers or anything. I'm not saying then like I wouldn't consider them academics as like throwing shade. I'm not a big fan of academics, so like.
Are you gonna get canceled now?
It's more of a compliment. It's more of a compliment from me.
Interesting fact.
And I don't like how Stranger Things threw shade at freaking Ernie Hudson. Like
I don't either.
Like he's one of my favorite characters in that
Yeah.
whole movie,
Because
and
he's like
and no one wants to be Ernie Hudson.
because he's like the realest dude, I guess, is the best.
well,
way to put it.
and that's just it. Is they did something in that movie, the writers of the movie, and I don't know who wrote it.
That would be Dan Aykroyd,
And,
Harold Ramis, and John Landis, who directed it.
You're missing somebody. What
not
was his
John
name?
Landis.
Did she say
Ivan
somebody?
Reitman.
Ivan Reitman.
Okay, so
Yes.
the writers
Oh,
of the
yeah,
movie
yeah.
knew that they needed a certain group that melded together, and they had these personalities, and those personalities was what they needed, and Ernie Hudson was that last personality to finish out that group.
Yep. Interesting fact. 2 of them I'll throw out there. First off, in regards to Ernie Hudson, originally it was going to be Eddie Murphy.
Yes, I did hear
Yes,
that.
I did hear that too. Yes.
And Winston
That would
actually.
have been neat too, but
I
That would've been- again, that
think the
would've been a
thing.
way different movie.
I think the thing is that with Bill Murray
You kind of
and Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy on the same screen at one time. Now, Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy have worked together before.
Yes, Trading Places.
great
But
movie.
having that much comedy, and I'm going to say that because all three of them are spectacular comedians.
Oh, yes, they are.
That much comedy, I think, would have just overloaded the screen. It would have been too much.
Right. And not only
I
that,
love Eddie Murphy,
you need your straight mans.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And also on top of that, though, too, it probably would have been way more expensive because you got to think about.
Well, they only had a budget of $80 million,
right? And you got to think about when Ghostbusters was made. Ghostbusters was made in the '80s, right?
And they
84?
also only said they only had, I think, a year and a half to make the movie.
Exactly, and it would have been way more money because at the time, Eddie Murphy ruled the '80s.
It almost
he was still coming off of Beverly Hills Cop, and
he was pretty much
Coming to America.
If you look at any
and
of
Trading Places,
if you look at the timeline,
of
the
Trading
decade,
Places,
if you look at the decade of the '80s, Eddie Murphy is pretty much in every category for the year for those 10 years.
Yeah,
and he dominated most of the '80s, and I think that he acknowledges that to this day. But I think that would have been way more expensive to make.
Oh, absolutely! They had a very tight budget, and I actually looked through and was reading what Ivan Reitman and Dan Aykroyd originally came up with. Originally, it was something completely different. They were going to have these wands that they shoot. And then Ivan Reitman got together and they sent it over to Harold Ramis and they started looking at it.
Technically, they do still have wands.
Well, they do, but it was way different.
They're more scientific.
And also,
I will say this though: if they had gotten Eddie Murphy instead of Ernie Hudson, Harold Ramis would have had way more work to do because then that would have made him the only real straight man in the whole group.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot of people throw shade a little bit at Ernie because when you were a kid, when we were kids, we all watched the real Ghostbusters, okay? Yeah. And you try to project, I think, when you're that young and impressionable, you try to project or relate the most to the character you're watching. I think for a lot of people, it was Peter because he was funny.
He was the lead. Without saying anything else.
He's bombastic.
He was the lead. He was the leader of the group, even though he had no idea what the heck he was really doing.
Right.
And then Egon,
again, he was the charisma. He was the charisma.
It was his mouth,
in a D&D character, he had max charisma.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Yes.
He stands at the front and says, "Let's move forward."
Pretty much.
Yeah, and then Egon, smart, witty, really nerdy, awkward at times, but I collect mold and fungus, or spores and mold fungus.
Well, I have a question.
And then you got Dan. 1 second, you got Dan, who's of course, just
he's the
bubbly
occult
guy.
He's the occult expert.
Very bubbly, very nice guy.
But honestly, when it comes to the research, all of the research is done by it's done by
Egon
and Ray.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you got the occult side of the research and the science side of the research, and then friggin'
the face of
the
face.
group. But the thing is, some of that research is also being done on the engineering side too, which is the reason why. So honestly, that's the main reason why I used to be a fan of Venkman when I was a kid because he's big and loud and he's always there
and proud.
But as I grow up more and more, he becomes more and more of a background character to me because everyone else is doing things and he's just insulting some guy from an office.
Right.
As funny as a lot of those little tangents that he did in those movies were, again, the hard workers were in the background continually doing their job while he was just
he
was facing.
Rumor had it behind the scenes anyway of the actual movie that this even happened on Stripes, that Ivan Reitman did an interview it's on Netflix. It's Movies That Made Us.
Yeah.
And they feature Ghostbusters in it. And Ivan Reitman even said in one interview that he did for that particular special was that it didn't matter if Bill Murray got the schedule ahead of time or what. It was always a guessing game as to whether or not he would even show up.
Well, he's like that. I mean, he won't even show up to, if you call it, he doesn't have an agent. You call a number, leave a message, and hope he shows up. Yep. Such was the case with the new movie. They didn't know if he was going to show up for Afterlife. And they were like, well, we want him to show up. And if he does, great. If he doesn't, oh well. Well, I think 6 months went by, and then finally I read an article because I'm an avid Ghostbusters fan, obviously. And when I read that, I was like, oh, yes, he's going to be in it. but like nobody knew. Like they had something written.
Yeah,
in
so
case he did.
it's hard. It's hard to work with him, not because he's like a jerk. He's just a crazy person.
Well,
He's very eccentric.
Yeah.
Again, though,
He's a guy. He's a guy who, like, literally, you could find him working randomly at a bar because he feels like it.
yeah.
Right.
He's
Which
very
is done.
He did not want the fame, and I get that. I
There are stories in Hollywood, and there's a lot of stories about Bill Murray in Hollywood. There are stories in Hollywood that he just does random stuff. So there's a story of a guy, he was just regular everyday Joe sitting down at some restaurant having lunch or something, and Bill Murray just happened to be there. Well, Bill Murray walks over, sits at his table, eats a French fry, and he says, "Nobody will believe you." And he gets up and he walks away.
Yep. I heard another one where he popped up behind somebody and he covered their eyes and he said peekaboo, and then he popped in front of him. Guess who? And then
Yeah, he's done. The thing is that he's very eccentric, and the thing is that that's what makes him who he is.
Right.
That's what
I
we
mean,
love
that's
about
who
him.
he is. I mean, and if we want to talk about other comedians that are very similar to him, I mean, Robin Williams was the same way.
I have a great
Robin
one.
Williams was off his rocker,
Oh, yeah.
but he was one of the greatest, to me, one of the greatest actors of his time. He just had a lot of little issues, and the
Right.
same way with Bill Murray.
Well, and another funny
Yeah, but
Bill Murray
at the end of the
story-
day, Robin Williams was a professional. Like, if he said he was going to be somewhere, he was going to be there.
Correct,
Right.
but he
That's
was
true.
also very. He was.
Robin Williams felt that
He
it was
had a
his
lot
job.
of mental. He had a lot of mental illnesses
Yep.
that he fought through to
mean,
continue
yeah.
being what he is.
Yes. I have another funny Bill Murray story. So, back when COVID first hit, I think it was like in February or March, when everybody was going into lockdown and shows were still in disarray and they were trying to figure out what to do. He was, and when they finally started going virtual, he did an interview on Ellen. And I can't remember if he was promoting something or if he was just doing an interview.
It was both. It was the interview and it was Afterlife.
Was it for Afterlife? Okay. Well, so he gets on there and he's wearing a mask, but it's a panda mask.
Again, he is who he is.
It was
That's
hilarious.
that's the type of person he is. Now,
It was freaking hilarious because the whole time he's sitting there in a chair in a kitchen. I'm not YouTubing. He's sitting in a kitchen with the panda mask on and just having a normal conversation, just talking like normal, like nothing's going on, and it's just Bill Murray. And anybody that knows Bill Murray knows how he is. So it was just funny.
all right. So we've gone through a little bit of the actors and stuff like that. We'll kind of run a quick synopsis of the two movies. So we're going to do this quick because if you haven't seen Ghostbusters and you don't have any plans to see Ghostbusters, shame on you. Second thing is, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil a lot of it. There's not a whole lot of things you can spoil because the movie's pretty straightforward when it comes to storyline.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Both of them are. So it's not that big a deal. So first movie starts out where the three that start it all are all in different places. So one is doing one thing, one's doing another thing, and they're all doing their academic stuff working in a college.
Mm-hmm. It said it's in University of New York, wasn't it, or Columbia University?
It's somewhere
One of the two?
I know it's somewhere in.
Yeah, it's
It's
one of
somewhere
the-
in New York.
Are we not going
One
to
of
talk
those
about
New
the
York
girl
colleges.
Ghostbusters?
If you say,
Should we?
if you even mention that movie, you can leave my podcast.
Damn.
Okay,
That's a no.
I'm gonna say the only thing that needs to be said about that movie,
Because it shouldn't
it
have
wasn't
never been
very
made.
good.
No.
I'm going to say one thing and be done with it.
Okay,
So-
you know, I think the movie's like it suffers from not having any straight man.
Yes.
Everyone in the whole movie is a goofball.
Yes, that is
They're-
very true.
They tried
yes.
too hard.
They did try too hard.
My thing is like, my comment on it is this, and I'll let Nick talk too about it real quick, but this is all we're going to talk about that stupid movie. One, did anybody really want it to be made? I sure didn't.
No, I mean they could have done it.
Did it
differently.
need to be made?
It could have been made differently.
No.
No.
It did not need to be made.
Not in the
No.
way
Somebody
that, not in the way
was,
that it was. No.
somebody was in a money grab moment
Right.
wanted to use an old name to try to make money,
Right.
and they made a movie. And then they pushed it, and they did it wrong.
When I originally heard about the movie, I heard about it being a very different movie. It was going to be a passing the torch style movie with some younger actresses that I thought would actually work out pretty well. Like one of them was Emma Stone. And I thought she would have worked really, really great as one like an Egon style straight man in that movie. And the other three actors, I can't remember who they were because it's been a really long time since I heard this initial rumor from way back in the day.
Right.
I probably heard this in like 2013 or 2014 when the original rumor came out. But like when I heard the cast, I was okay with the movie and I was kind of excited for it to come out. And then more information actually came out. And I got less and less excited until it got to the point where I was just like, this movie's going to just be garbage. And then it was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it does have some cool parts in it, but that's really about it.
So, for me, I'm going to keep this as brief as I can.
You have your few minutes.
So, for me, growing up, Ghostbusters was a huge part of me in my life and with my father. It was with my daughter. I'm a ghost head, part of the Gateway City Ghostbusters. I've even built a proton pack. So for me, like when I heard about this, I was really excited. But what needed to be done is it needed to have a proper passing of the torch, which it didn't, and that angered a lot of fans. Also, I'm with all of you guys. I didn't like the humor in it, but what I did appreciate it for at the time, and I still do, not knowing that Afterlife was going to be a thing, because Afterlife was what I really wanted, was a more Ghostbusters. Okay? Now, did I like how it was done? No, but at the end of the day, I just wanted more.
My thing is that I think they started out wanting it to be a pass the torch, and it just ended up being a reboot, horribly done with females,
Right.
and there was too many damn comedians. Not enough, like Tim said, not enough straightforward everyday people.
Right.
No, like a straight man is someone for you to play off of.
Right.
And like, because like the way jokes basically work in Ghostbusters is someone starts the joke. Like Venkman will start a joke by saying something ridiculous, and then the joke will end when it hits the brick wall of a human that is like Egon.
Right.
And that way you get all the buildup of like, oh man, this is getting really funny. And then it suddenly stops in like the super serious face of Egon. And that makes it funnier. Because now the joke has an end point. And that end point is someone who just doesn't give a crap about what you're saying.
Right.
And that's what makes it funny.
Yes.
The new Ghostbusters didn't have that because no one was meant to play that role. The problem is the writers, the producers, the director, their whole thing was they prefer making movies in the editing room. And when you do that with comedy, it doesn't generally work out quite as well.
Right. No, I agree.
Because then there's no punchline. It's just people ad-libbing. And sometimes that can work out. There are movies that have worked out that way. But it's not a preferred method. And it just didn't work out in this particular instance.
Right. I mean, we've talked more than I wanted to talk about that movie in this podcast.
Sorry.
I really want to kick the person who brought it up, but he's through a cabinet and I can't reach him right now.
Thank God for islands.
So, back to this quick synopsis of the movies. Real quick. So, the three of them always suspected there was ghosts. Yeah. And then finally, Egon is... I always forget their names. I always mix their name with it.
Egon's the one with the glasses.
Okay, so then it was...
Ray.
Ray runs into the ghosts in that library.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh my gosh, they are real. And he actually got proof and everything like that. So then they're like, well, there's got to be something to this. So then they do this quick flash forward to where they're like, okay, we're going to start hunting ghosts now. So they make equipment that can wrangle them, which is the proton packs. They make a trap, which can trap a ghost into it. And then they make the main
the containment
unit that'll hold all these ghosts. So basically, what that sounds like is scientifically they found a way to trap a being that isn't really a being.
Right.
They use science to do it, which is okay. It's fine with me. I'm good with that. And science in this kind of movie doesn't need to be real. It doesn't need to be realistic. I think the way they did it was perfect. There was they don't need to explain why they're doing what they're doing. They don't need to explain it. They did it, and it worked, and that's fine.
Right.
I mean, there is some rather humorous build-up to that sort of stuck in there with, like, Ray mortgaging his parents' house.
Yeah.
And then,
they bought
this poll is great.
And then eventually
they bought the firehouse.
Yeah, and they get the hearse.
They get that hearse and turn it into the Ecto-1, which is a very iconic vehicle.
I want one.
But the vehicle itself is very
rare.
rare.
It's inflatable.
The vehicle that was made on is very rare. So seeing true to life.
Yeah.
I think Dan Aykroyd said that they built
He probably has one.
3 or 4.
I would not doubt if you go over to Dan Aykroyd's house. I bet you he has one in his garage.
Oh yeah,
There are 4 or 5 that are in existence from the actual movie right now.
So completely off topic. This off topic here. I was flipping through a marketplace somewhere. I was looking at vehicles. Everybody knows that I have this thing about cars, so I always look at vehicles. And there is a high-end car dealership in our area that's selling a DeLorean that has the full Back to the Future package on it.
Oh
Really?
my god!
Really?
Yes. So I just thought that was funny and had to say it because we were talking about
There's
it has all the wiring, all the inside, the outside, everything.
There's
I
like
have a funny story
80 to
about-
100 grand or something like that.
There's
It's
a place
fully
that,
running, driving DeLorean.
that
that's
we
cool.
deliver to. It's called West County Auto Body. It's over off of Lindbergh.
Oh yeah.
They have an Ecto-1 that's sitting outside there. They also have friggin' Mater and God, what's the red car's name? Lightning McQueen. So they have like all 3 of those just sitting out front of their place.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, that's neat.
that they built because they're auto
They're
body
an auto
shop.
body shop, right?
Yeah.
And they probably don't run.
I have no idea if they do or
good
not,
for
but
they're
they-
good for like, hey, look what we can do.
Right, or they're good for their picture opportunities.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
For the fandom, for a lot of time, Ghostbusters has always been really heavily fan driven. I can tell you, in the last 3 months alone, I've seen 3 different Ecto-1s, all fan made.
Oh yeah.
We saw
There's one that drives around here. It's not very well done, but somebody took a Dodge Magnum, which is it's
Wow,
like
that'd be one fast Ecto-1.
it's
Right.
a Dodge. It's a Dodge Magnum. It has basically the station wagon version of a Dodge Charger.
Yeah, it's a really fast station wagon.
So, and then he has it. He has
a
it all
sport wagon.
painted up. He puts 2 lights on
wagon.
it. It's not fully
Sport
like
wagon.
decked out with all the excess wires and stuff, but he has some decals on there. So it looks like a very basic Ecto-1 without the excess crap that they had on the top. They had that big thing on the top that was full of electronic gadgets, but it's a white station wagon that somebody wanted to turn into an Ecto-1, and it looks really cool. But he drives around. We ran into him. Funny enough, we ran into him at a Pokemon event on
really?
Community Day. Yeah, he was at one of the parks that we went to, and he stopped, and my son saw it, and my ex-wife was like, "Hey, let's go. Can we get a picture?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then they started talking to the guy. The guy seems really cool, really nice guy. So, but yeah, I mean, so. Back to the movie, though. Back to the movie synopsis. So they buy a firehouse, which is really kind of a good idea because if somebody sees a ghost, sometimes ghosts don't hang out very long. Sometimes they're only there for a little bit, so they gotta be quick about it. So what's the best thing about a firehouse is they have that freaking fire pole. They
Right.
slide down, get in their gear, jump in the Ecto-1, and be wherever they need to be. So forward in the movie a little bit, I mean, their very first call, which is a very, very iconic ghost.
Modeled after John Belushi, no less. Oh, did I say that right? John Belushi?
Jim Belushi.
Yeah,
Jim Belushi.
John Belushi. Yeah.
Yes, he was heavily inspired from that.
Francois Belushi.
Sure.
There's a bunch of Belushis. Don't worry about it.
Francois Belushi.
So the very first ghost they run into and get called to is Slimer.
Yes.
In a hotel.
In a very fancy hotel.
A very fancy hotel.
It's actually called...
And they were told to keep it discreet so that they didn't interrupt the other guests.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
And then they fill them out the ass.
The discreetness did not
And the
happen.
table is still standing.
He goes, I've always wanted to try this. And I tried to pull the tablecloth out from underneath all the crap. So they finally catch it. They do catch it and things, and they're like, oh shoot, this is great. From then on, they go into a quick montage of them just running around catching ghosts across New York. People are paying them.
Yep.
That's where they also the song "Who You Gonna Call," Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
That song comes up in that montage. It becomes part of the commercial. It's like, if you have a creeps and blah blah, that commercial. And I used to be able to say
ready
that.
To believe you.
Yeah, I used to be able to quote that whole freaking commercial, but I can't do it anymore.
I can quote everything in the movies, but for some reason that just eludes me right now.
That commercial, right? Yeah, that whole commercial is like, because it's like a couple of them talking back and forth. Creeps, specters, blah 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 blah. If you have any of this stuff, give us a call.
No, don't pull it up.
But anyway, so they are starting to make money now off of this whole deal, and then they're trying to figure out why. Well, then here comes said love interest, because there's always got to be a love interest in a movie.
Sigourney Weaver.
Okay, always. There's always got to be a love interest. And of course it's Sigourney Weaver, which again does exactly what I said, is how great this cast is in this movie, is you have an actress like Sigourney Weaver in it. Now Sigourney Weaver and Bill Murray's character become
Close.
What?
Bottle opener.
Oh, this. Yeah, anyway. So, sorry, that totally got sidetracked. I apologize. But, so they become the love interest. Now, Sigourney Weaver doesn't want to have anything to do with Bill Murray's character at first.
None.
And then it kind of grows and grows and grows, and things happen, and it's great. So they come to find out that her building that she lives in was built by a certain architect.
It was built by Ivo Shandor,
Who is a
leader of the occult.
Yeah, occult style, but he's an architect, so he builds things in certain ways on certain plots of ground for certain reasons.
To channel
psychic and occult powers.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but when you get into a lot of scary stories, eventually you find out that all architects are evil, and all they did was.
I don't know what you're talking about. We haven't been listening to a podcast with an architect that's psychotic. The Magnus Archives. The Magnus Archives.
No, when he starts getting in the Magnus Archives, when he starts getting into like the architecture of things around town, like every time they mention an architect, it's just like, and this was built for this extremely evil purpose.
Well, no, and the thing is in that podcast, I know we're going to go on a tangent, so hold off for just a second. In that podcast, every time something is built and something happens weird in a building, that building is always built by the same, or was always designed by the same freaking architect.
Yeah. Or was built by someone who
or was
who was attempting to copy that architect,
or was one of his apprentices.
I'm sorry, but I find the irony here outstanding. Spoilers.
What?
In Afterlife, it's already been spotted that the town that the new sequel takes place in, there's a mine built by Ivo Shandor.
We'll get to the.
You see, architects are evil.
Architects are evil. So yes, that's a perfect example of how architects are evil.
I'm sorry, I know. I wanted
Good
to
job,
point that
nice segue, but we'll get to the
Anyway,
Afterlife trailer later. But
the building that she's in was built by an architect that, again, like we've said before, is evil and wants to channel certain powers. Well, they come to find out that there's certain things like Zool, and they come to find out this is a certain.
Oh,
You guys got to help me here.
what?
Like Zool is who?
Zool is a evil god that travels from realm to realm,
Okay.
basically
So
destroying it.
wait.
That's a short version.
Okay,
Hold on. Zool is the
The destroyer of worlds.
No,
no,
Zool,
what is her actual title?
Zool is the gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. Thank you. Yes.
No.
Yes. Yes, she is because if
Because
I'm gonna
okay,
make a
no,
point
like
here.
there is no Dana, only Zool. Yeah, she is Zool at that point.
Okay,
Yes.
Zool's a gatekeeper. Somebody
The-
else
the,
in her
the,
building.
the actual goddess. I can't. It starts with a G. What is it?
What? The goddess what?
What?
Gozer.
Gozer.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're right. I'm wrong. You're,
Yes.
I'm
Gozer-
wrong. You're right.
Gozer the Gozerian.
Gozer
Yeah.
is
But,
interesting
hold on.
fact. Gozer also becomes a very puffy person. A lot
But
of people don't know that.
circling back to this subject, so turns out that Dana is the gatekeeper, but can y'all guess who the keymaster is?
Irony.
That's right, Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis lives in the same building. So this is why I say that Rick Moranis is a very
Isn't he
side
like the
character.
landlord or something?
No,
No.
he just lives on the
No.
he lives like down the hall. Like
Yeah.
on the same hall as
As
Dana.
Dana.
Because like he kept talking to her about something. It felt like he was like maybe he was like the
He was
super.
kept in trying to invite to her to a party or something that he was having.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. he
But
didn't
anyway,
have
so
anything-
you have the
yeah.
gatekeeper and the keymaster, and when they get together, they open a portal for Gozer. And then Gozer destroys the world. We'll come to find out that the reason why there's so many ghosts in New York at this moment is because that gate has been weakening over time. Which is why the gatekeeper, the keymaster are able to come through, and then all these other ghosts are able to come through, and why they've been so busy. Go ahead.
It also doesn't help that Dickless the Clown also opened up their containment unit.
That we're not there yet.
No,
Nick.
here's
we did.
here's the thing. Now let's continue with the synopsis, because once we get there are some interesting points there. But let's continue with the synopsis. Go ahead.
So, a lot of things are going wrong, and then there's this one guy, and Nick's already named him, that thinks that whatever these Ghostbusters are
I
doing
don't
is
think his actual name is Dickless.
fake.
It's
Walter Peck.
Walter Peck.
Yes.
And actually, that actor is really good too, but I
Yeah.
can't think of his
What's
name.
his name?
His real name, I do not know. I can Google it, or Nick can Google it.
Well,
but
we'll Google him because that actor that plays him is phenomenal in a lot of other movies
But
too.
I think that him and Bill Murray really did play very well.
They played well off
off
of each other. And again, but this guy, who he's looking up now.
William Atherton.
Oh, William Atherton. So he's been in a lot of movies, and he's one of those names that, like, I just said it, but nobody's gonna understand. Once you see his face, you'll be like, "Oh my God, he's in this and he's in that."
Is that
He's
gay?
another one of those
Yeah,
actors.
it's that guy.
But the
he's
way-
one of those that guys.
But the way he plays characters, the way he played this character, really did good at bouncing
Oh, yeah,
stuff
he
off
did.
of Bill Murray's character because of the way their personalities were.
Yeah, they both were perfect.
It was funny
for
to
those-
see them bounce back.
So-
and forth.
Yeah. It's
I don't
amazing.
remember exactly what's going on here, but I know that the Ghostbusters get arrested because they think that they're
Violating
No,
the
okay.
EPA.
So Walter Peck is a city health inspector.
EPA.
Yeah.
EPA. He works for Environmental Protection Agency.
okay.
Right. So and he hears about all this equipment and stuff, and I think he suspects that there's like a radiation leak or something.
He thinks that what is going on with because this is when the Ghostbusters are starting to gain popularity and they're
Right.
doing all
They're
this.
doing a lot of stuff.
So the EPA gets involved and sees what they're doing, and so he goes.
No, he
to-
doesn't see what they're doing. He requests to see what they're doing.
Yes, well, he hears.
and he
Excuse
gets
me.
and he gets kicked out.
He hears about what they're doing, and so he goes to the firehouse and he talks to. We
Bill.
didn't even bring up the secretary. We didn't even.
She's awesome
We didn't even
too.
bring up Annie Potts, man.
She's awesome.
Janine.
Janine, who's Annie Potts is the name of the actress who plays Janine. But So he goes to the firehouse, and then Bill Murray is the first person to confront him and to talk to him, and then they go down to the containment unit. Or no, does he get kicked out the first time he goes there?
Oh,
and
yes.
he comes back? Okay, that's right, yeah.
So he doesn't have any real standing to see the containment unit.
Yes.
Except for the fact that he's part of the EPA, and the EPA has saying to do just about anything they want to.
Right.
So I mean, this movie is very true to life.
That is true.
The EPA can literally do anything they want because
Yeah,
they're a regulatory agency. They're not a
They start to hear about the goings on with the Ghostbusters,
And they think that they know that everything they're using is nuclear powered of some sort, some kind of atom smashing type deal. So they're thinking that the radioactivity is going to hurt the environment and blah blah blah.
Well,
and they think that they're gassing
we all know
people.
radioactivity can't hurt the environment.
They also think too. What? Never mind. They also think too that the Ghostbusters are causing people to have these hallucinations of ghosts.
And then
they think that they're the reason behind all of these ghosts, quote unquote, coming out is because the Ghostbusters are doing something to cause
So,
them.
Correct.
Technically speaking, from Walter Peck's point of view, he doesn't actually do anything wrong.
No, he doesn't.
He is literally following he's following his agency's regulations, and he's doing what he thinks is best for the health of the people of New York.
Right, because they don't know what the hell's going
yeah,
on.
but
Meanwhile, Venkman treated him like a piece of dog shit and
Right.
kicked him out.
But
Like
the thing
he could have literally just been like, hold on, give me a second, and went and got Egon and just said, hey Egon, can you give him a tour of the thing and make sure that he knows that the whole thing is safe?
Right, but
Right.
but that wouldn't be funny though.
It wouldn't have progressed the story where we needed.
And also,
it to.
it wouldn't have betrayed him as the villain,
Correct.
quote unquote.
So they get arrested for environmental stuff, and then they force them to shut down the containment unit. Now, at this point in the movie, the Ghostbusters are busy all the time. They have so many ghosts already trapped and in this containment unit. When it opens, it just opens a floodgate of these ghosts back into New York.
Yeah, it blows a hole through the top of their firehouse.
And it really all it does is helps Gozer get what Gozer needs, which is an open hole to the world, so that I'm going to use she because
it is a she.
It ends up being a girl anyway, but
Well,
it is a she in the movie. Yes,
the actress that played is a she, but by looking at the way they portrayed it, it was kind of like one of those use your own interpretation of whether this is a boy or a girl, but she's a god, so she is neither.
Right. Pretty much, she can be whatever she wants to be.
Gender neutral.
As according to Egon, she is whatever she wants to be.
Yes,
Correct.
that is true.
So
apparently, she wanted to be a creepy looking
and
lady with short hair.
Butch hair. Yes.
Stuff goes completely haywire. They're in jail. Finally, the mayor's like, we need to get them out. We need to fix this and blah, blah, blah. They end up finding out that all of this is centering around that building that Dana is in.
Yep.
So they got to go up to the top of this building. And that's one of the funniest scenes, too, because you got these guys
the
carrying
electricity
these,
is out, so they have to take the stairs.
They have to take the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to think, if you guys look at their packs, those packs have to weigh 75 pounds or more.
In the movie, originally they weighed about 65 to 75 pounds.
And they got to hike up, a couple hundred flights of steps? Mm-hmm. It's just funny.
At least 30 floors. At least.
It was like 108 stories or something.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Nonsense.
So they finally get to the top, and they have to battle Gozer. And one of the big things that you hear in the very first battle when they fight Slimers, they say don't cross the stream. So they have these proton packs that shoot these lasers out that trap ghosts, and then the ghosts can be pulled in places and then trapped in a trap. Mm-hmm. They say don't cross the streams because it's nuclear power and we don't know what's going to happen. It could blow a hole in the universe. We don't know.
Right.
But they're like, they don't know what to do against this god. And this god's like, choose the way I'm going to destroy this world. And everybody's like, don't think of anything, clear your minds, blah, blah, blah. And then 100-foot Marshmallow Man shows up.
All because of Ray.
All because of Ray. Damn it, Ray.
Damn it, Ray.
When someone
Well,
asks if you're a god,
you say yes! Everyone knows that quote. I don't care who you are.
So,
everyone knows it.
They end up defeating Gozer by crossing all 4 streams of their proton packs, and it doesn't destroy Gozer, but it probably at least pushes Gozer back through this.
So it was a gate. They swung the door of the gate back closed.
Yes.
Correct. So I'm not saying they destroyed this god, but they at least pushed the god away and closed the gate, and they're the heroes again. Yay! And then the end of the movie.
Yes.
But it's like at the end of the movie, you still got the gatekeeper and the keymaster. We don't know where they're at, and they're like stone, and they're like, "Oh my god, we lost 2 people," and then they start breaking through the stone, and the humans come back around, and that's when Dana really is like, "Okay, yeah, I really love you," and blah blah blah, and shit happens. Anyway.
Right.
And then the second movie happens.
So we're gonna fast forward. We're gonna fast forward.
I like the second movie.
So
I did too.
the first that pretty much ends the first movie, and again, it doesn't.
Let's see what happens when we take the puppy away.
There's no spoilers in that, because if you haven't already seen it, even though the fact that I've told you everything that happens, it's still worth watching because I left a lot of stuff out. So a lot of the continuity of the story was left out.
And we also left out all of the comedy, pretty much.
Yes. So
Right.
if you're going to watch it, at least watch it for the comedy, because it's spectacular.
It's an all-time cult classic that holds up really well to this day.
So we're going to move into the second movie. So there's still Ghostbusters. They're still fighting ghosts, but things have slowed down quite a bit.
Well, at the beginning of the movie, they're not Ghostbusters. No. Because they can't be Ghostbusters
Because
anymore.
there are no more ghosts.
No, because they got sued out of existence.
Yeah, and then...
So they were held responsible for all of the damage to New York City at the end of the first movie.
And
That's
Ray,
right.
Ray and, I think it was, Ray and,
Ernie
Ernie
Hudson's
Hudson,
character.
thank you.
Yeah. The two of them are like Ghostbusters for hire. Like they go to like parties
Children's
and like
parties.
they go to children. They're like, who are you gonna call? He-Man. And like that's a kick in the face. That's
Right.
my dad says you guys are a fraud.
and they danced to the theme song.
Yeah, it was a pretty low point for them at the beginning of the movie, but
Egon's really the only one that's doing great. You know, taking puppies away from small children.
Egon's doing psychological case studies. Bill Murray's
Again,
become
yeah, he goes back to doing
host.
psychological case studies, and so they kind of go back to doing their other jobs when they were in the universities.
Right.
But eventually the ghosts do come back, and
Again, it's centered around Dana.
Yep.
Yes.
Dana starts to work for.
technically it's centered around Dana's baby.
Yes, Dana. But the thing is
Who,
that
if I recall, is not Vankman's baby.
no, it's not.
No.
Because they broke up, and then she got together with somebody else who ran off to like find themselves or something.
I don't remember.
Some
They said
stupid,
I can't remember.
the baby's
some
name is
stupid
Oscar.
new wavy crap.
The
and,
baby's name is Oscar. That's all I remember.
Yeah, so
and he's not even a Grouch.
No,
Right.
he's not.
so
No.
at the same time, going on in the
He's a
background,
pretty
of,
decent kid.
He gets taken away by Spectre Nanny, but
right, and going on in the background of this movie, you find out that there's this slime or ectoplasm goo.
Well, that actually they have to find out. We're not there yet. So Dana starts working for an art gallery. type,
she's
like a museum almost.
Yeah, she was like she cleans paintings at an art gallery.
And she was the funny thing is she was a musician in the first movie.
She's still a musician.
Yeah, I think that they play music, if I remember correctly, and they run into it or something, and the art hall or music hall.
No, but she's working for the museum. She's working for the museum, but she was a musician in the first movie.
I couldn't. Oh, you know what?
Yeah,
no,
she was
the cello scene is in only the first movie, right?
Yeah.
So the cello thing doesn't happen in the second movie, but who cares? I guess. I think that's.
I guess it really doesn't.
Yeah,
matter.
I guess that's their
their plot. That's how they keep the plot moving, I guess. Anyway, so there's a painting that gets brought in.
Why they had to go to an art gallery? Couldn't it have just like literally been a painting hanging up in like
Well, it's in
whatever hall
museum.
she was playing?
I'm pretty
in?
sure it's at the museum that she's at.
Yeah, it is. But couldn't they have like still made her a cellist and like had the painting hanging up in just the concert hall?
I don't know, maybe.
The man has a point.
The thing is that either way, it doesn't matter. That's kind of a moot point at this point. But they bring in this painting, and this painting is of a old warlord or
something like that. He was like a
tyrant.
Vigo
the Carpathian.
Who was a tyrant that was absolutely, positively one of the most evilest human beings that ever lived. And he died a very brutal death.
Yeah, he was executed like 37 different ways.
And then he vowed that someday he would return to Ignat.
I believe he vowed that like in the middle of his executions.
So the curator of the museum realizes that this painting is starting to come to life and starts talking to him and commanding him to do things. Weird stuff starts to happen, and for some reason, two of the Ghostbusters go underground. I don't remember why that happens, but why they start searching.
They start getting readings of something that's in a place, but it's down. So they pretend to be construction workers
and go down in the hole.
Dig a hole, and they send someone down on a line.
And they find it.
And I think they sent Ray down on the line.
I think they sent Ray down on the line,
and he ends up finding like this giant river of slime, and the slime attempts to attack him.
And then they come to realize that this river of slime is running right into towards Vigo's painting.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's after, because they go through like old subway lines.
Yeah.
And they end up accidentally falling into the river of slime.
Yeah. They do. Okay, there's a lot in the between the movie that they do testing on the slime. So it reacts to music, it reacts to certain things. And they realize that they could actually use the slime for good if done properly, so they take their own samples.
They make positive energy slime.
Which with New York, they basically discover that the slime is reacting to the
negative
energy
and
then
New York.
Vigo is feeding off of that.
Yes.
Which, if New York, I don't know if anybody... Look, I'm not knocking New York or anyone from New York, but some people in New York, I mean, let's be honest, they're not always the most friendliest.
No, you're definitely right on that. Anyway... So
it's the
really
that are most
pushed.
vocal that you generally seem to remember.
We really pushed through the second movie because it's pretty much to the end here. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in between. They do a lot of investigating. They do a lot of figuring things out, and
they
come back to Ghostbusting again. They get back together. They have to fight this thing, and now what's really great though is that two of them now don't carry proton packs. They carry sliming packs. So they've used the slime that's running underneath New York, and they use it for good things. Like they spray the whole inside of the Statue of Liberty with slime and start rocking out music, and they can control her. So she's walking through freaking New York.
Yeah, and they
is great.
They use like a old NES, like the big joystick controller. And all I can think is
the power pad.
They won't have
like
nearly
that.
enough buttons for this.
But they make it work somehow.
Yeah, so they end up knowing that it's Vigo. They end up knowing it's at the museum after all their research. Dana's baby. What the baby actually becomes a big key is that Vigo wants to use the baby as his new body.
Yeah, he wants to be reborn.
So they steal Dana's baby, and Vigo's going to come out of the painting as a spirit and enter Oscar and become human again, and that's going to be the new Vigo.
Yes.
I'm not sure really what the end game is for Vigo though, because there's not really a whole lot of there's not like a whole lot of job opportunities for like tyrants and warlords.
I don't know. Once he gets out, he'll figure it out, huh?
I mean, if he wanted to like move to Africa, maybe.
I mean, he's very. He was in some of the books he's portrayed as having some very powerful
Magic.
Well, I mean, he decided that
He would be a
for
spirit.
a while when he was being executed.
He would have been a spirit, so he would have had some. He would have had to have something. But anyway, so of course, who's here to save the day? The Ghostbusters. So they come in, and then this slime wall comes around the museum. They can't break in. They bring the Statue of Liberty over, and the New York starts to sing happily together, and it cracks the hatred, and the slime starts to go away, and they are able to get in, and then they fight and battle, and stuff happens, and baby's safe, Vigo's stuck in the painting, and we're all done.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a
Wow.
wonderful picture.
I think the second movie has a very small storyline, doesn't it?
It's not terribly extensive. It's mostly
is
about
not.
execution and journey in the second movie.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a lot about journey, and the thing is again, because of who's in it, so you're still looking at Rick Moranis, the chick who played the secretary. You got
Annie Potts.
you got Sigourney Weaver. You still got Bill Murray. You still got Belushi. You still have
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie
Harold
Hudson and Ramis. You have that awesome cast of comedians that can really just push the story and actually let you have fun while you do it. So it may not be a very large plot for the second movie, but again, Tim has said it. It's the journey to get there. Mm-hmm. So we ended movie 2. Now, after movie 2, nothing is done with this cast ever again. Okay? Until recently. They did do that horrible movie that we discussed for a minute. But they did a lot of animated stuff right after.
They did the Real Ghostbusters TV show.
Yeah.
The Extreme Ghostbusters
TV show.
And the Ghostbusters video game, which was based off of their original version of the Ghostbusters 3 script.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really good too.
So they did some really good things after the movie. So it wasn't just like, here's your movie, we're done. They continued. That's why Ghostbusters has become such a big thing that, again, they had TV shows, cartoons,
Comics.
comics.
There were a lot of comics.
There were a lot of comics. They had like merchandise up the wazoo. You
Yep.
could not go anywhere for the longest time without running into something
Yep.
Ghostbusters.
Yep.
So then we get this
We
long
mentioned
pause.
that Nick had a proton pack and he's part of the whole that St. Louis
So-
organization. I knew someone in 2010 or something that also had the jumpsuit and a proton pack, and I was like, that was a long time ago. Like,
I mean, the fact that
these
it's
people exist. These weirdos exist.
They do.
But
And the thing is that, and Nick has said it, the fan base is what keeps Ghostbusters going.
Yes.
The people who grew up watching Ghostbusters, the people who just are fanatical about what it is. I mean, we were talking about fans and fanatics right before the podcast. Now, for a while, I've always thought that Nick was a fanatic, but he's not truly a fanatic. He's a huge fan of the Ghostbusters. Fanatics would know a lot more background information than he knows.
Right.
They would actually sit and research the whole making of the Ghostbusters and how the script was written and what really started in the beginning and all this other stuff.
I did that.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
how many episodes of the Real Ghostbusters are there?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe around 174.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he's really close.
And I did talk about how the script was written, and I did.
It was written on paper.
Well,
Written on paper.
what it almost was.
Right. So anyway,
I wouldn't say that I'm a hardcore fanatic. I would say that I'm an enthusiast.
he's a
Mild to moderate fanatic.
he's a huge fan. Is how I'm going to leave it. Okay, because fanatics would be way more crazy about it than he is.
Nick is more into the aspects of the proton pack and how it works and
He's
operates.
crazy about it. But I think that's more just the fact that
So
he's crazy.
Nick also does something that, as much trouble as we give him about it, is when this group actually does do what they can do, it's actually a really good thing. So
Yes.
this group, before this whole pandemic crap started, they used to go visit hospitals and visit kids fully dressed up in gear, and just sometimes little things like that just, it warms your heart because you got to think about it. I mean, these kids are in a hospital stuck there for long periods of time. So any little cool things, whether you're dressed up as a superhero or a Star Wars character or a
Right.
Ghostbusters character, it doesn't matter. The people who do that, they may get made fun of by their peers or whatever. It's whatever. What they do is actually phenomenal. I
Right.
think it's a great thing.
Yes, I agree.
I feel that Nick gets a lot of trouble from us because he likes to brag about things that we don't care about. We do get that you care, but we also get the fact that what you're doing is a good thing.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Okay? So he just joined this group, so he hasn't been able to do much because he just finished his pack. I think he's done a great job on the pack. I think it's a little...
Right.
I think it's a bit small.
Damn it,
So,
Tim, you
so
just
to allude to
challenged
that,
him.
for those in the audience,
Gosh,
I gotta bring this up. So I took what was originally, a Spirit Halloween store pack.
I let him do this. Yes, I
And
know.
over 3 years, I dumped way too much money into it over and over and over and again.
So what
Yeah.
he's not saying is that the Spirit Halloween pack is
not
only 80% of the full size of a pack.
Yes.
So
weight.
the thing is that it's small, but it fits him fine because he's not a big dude. So the size of the
he's
pack,
only like 3'6", and
the size of the pack fits him. But there are people out there that are overly crazy about their stuff and wouldn't let him into their charity groups because he's using a Spirit Halloween pack.
Yeah, some people.
But if they were to have seen his Spirit Halloween pack and the wand that he connected to it, they would probably think twice. But of course, they're too stuck up to even give him a shot. So
I
he
wasn't
found
gonna
another
say
group. He found another group that accepted him for what he has, and they
Yes.
they do good things.
Yes. Very good things. And I'm
So-
very proud of him for it.
Now that we have that out of the way, and I'm done being nice to Nick. That's my being nice to Nick for
Really?
for 5 minutes, which is fine.
That's all I
We're gonna go to real quick.
oh my back hurts.
real
I can't
quick.
carry a full size pack.
Real quick. We're gonna go over this trailer that Nick keeps wanting to talk about. So they announced a while back after the flop of the female version of Ghostbusters. They announced a while back of a new story and script that was out for Ghostbusters coming back, and they call it
Yes.
Afterlife.
Yes.
The basic story that I get out of the trailer, this is just me only watching it like twice, is that one of the kids of the original Ghostbusters and I guess his mother end up in a small town in Iowa, Ohio,
Something like that, yeah.
one of the Midwestern
It's
states.
farm country.
One of the Midwestern farm country states. And I can't
I
remember.
think he's supposed to be like the.
Can I elaborate on it real fast?
Let me finish my synopsis of it real quick, and then we can elaborate on more.
Yeah, and I want to see something
He
too.
finds some equipment. He finds an Ecto-1. He finds the Ecto-1. This kid gets really curious because this is a small town. He's very bored. He needs something to do. He wants to know more about who his father is. So they end up finding the Ecto-1 and 1 or 2 proton packs. They find all 4. I don't remember what they showed in the trailer or not. But I
They
know.
show the Ecto-1, but they don't. But they also find in the shed. They find samples of mold and fungus too,
Well, no, so
or at least they show a shot of it anyway.
it's heavily alluded to that it's Egon's granddaughter and grandson.
Yes, I think it's confirmed, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, you can look at the resemblance between the two. It's uncanny. And she finds, of course, his collection of mold, spores, and fungus, and his proton pack and workshop. And from what I've basically seen in the trailer, they go on this discovery to find out who their grandfather was. At the same time,
Okay, so
looks
I
like
thought
those
it
are
was their
still-
father. I wasn't
No,
sure
it's
it
their
was their
grandfather.
grandfather. Okay, so that makes a little more sense.
Yes. And Paul Rudd is in it, who is amazing.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Paul Rudd's pretty cool.
Paul Rudd is the best.
But anyway, so there is going to be a new Ghostbusters. It was supposed to come out this year, but, COVID sucks.
Yes.
I think it's the first time I've said COVID on this freaking podcast.
Can you say COVID on here?
I don't give a crap if I can or can't.
Because at one point in the Disney one, I called it the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Because that's what somebody else called it, because they would have gotten demonetized had they said COVID.
I don't know. We're not going to get demonetized. The thing is that this
we're
pandemic.
not even monetized.
No.
I'm just saying.
So we can't get demonetized for something we're not monetized on.
Oh, well.
Anyway, so.
The coof sucks.
Yes.
We'll call it the Koof.
So this whole pandemic thing really put a damper on a lot of good movies that were supposed to come out this year.
If the Koof
Movies
is
that,
listening,
like-
I hate you.
Movies that I've been looking forward to, like the new Top Gun. Movies that Nick has been looking forward to, like Afterlife. They should have already been out. We should have already been watching these movies, but they're
Amen.
not out yet.
Yeah.
So
It sucks.
it sucks. We'll get there. We're finally going to see these movies eventually.
Hopefully.
Wonder Woman 1984 is being released on the 25th, both in theaters and on HBO Max.
Oh, that's right.
So I
was excited for that movie. I've heard bad things from the screeners though. So
yeah. See, I don't know, but here my thing is that I have a funny feeling that the movies that we will see in the future 6 or 8 months that are supposed to come out for real, that's how they're going to end up. They're going to be on some streaming site like HBO, Cinemax, or Showtime. And
It is what it is.
And in the theaters, which is fine because there are some people that aren't going to want to go to theaters and chance getting this, and then there's other people that are like, screw this, I'm going to the theaters, I'm going to go watch this movie. I personally will probably go see Afterlife in the theaters. I'd like to go see it with Nick, and we've discussed this already. When he goes, I will probably end up going with him.
yeah, I will probably actually end up going too for several reasons. I know I don't go to movie theaters ever since I stopped working at one. I can count on one hand the number of movies I've seen in a theater since I stopped working in a movie theater. But one, I do kind of want to see Afterlife in a theater because it does seem like the kind of movie that would benefit from that. And two, just to be just angry at the world and just be like, I don't care about you, Mr. Koof Koof. And
That's awesome, Tim.
And if you can hear me right now, Mr. Koof Koof, screw you.
Mr. 19, as you like to call yourself.
And
too.
screw you real hard.
So,
Yeah, if there's even a movie theater.
that movie I will go. I will go to a theater to see, and I will
Amen,
go to the
yes.
theater to go see Top Gun, even if I'm in Top Gun by myself.
And I will be
I
there.
will go.
I will be there dressed in a Ghostbuster suit if I have to, with my husband and with the rest of you guys.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I think we're gonna have to show up separately because you two will have to go in, find seats, and we'll come in later.
So make sure
Right.
you put
Because
on,
I don't want to be seen in public with you two dressed up as
What
Ghostbusters.
if it's a cool Ghostbuster suit?
make
I'm
sure
wearing?
Kate, your shirt says "I'm with this one" and it points to his seat.
No.
And
No,
you know,
that's not
there might
right.
not even be a movie theater though.
Yes,
By the
there
time-
is.
they say AMC
There
said
will
they're
be.
going to run out of funding in January.
There are more theaters than AMC.
That's
Right.
true.
Well, Regal decided to close down everything stateside. AMC is going to run out of money.
Yes.
So around here, the Great Escape got bought, right?
It was actually a Regal.
Great Escape got bought by Regal.
I think
Okay,
Marcus Theater.
so that means they're going to close. So that leaves Marcus.
But what if it's a cool Ghostbuster suit that I'm wearing? What about it?
So around, regardless,
You would be seen.
around here that leaves Marcus Theaters, which means the original theater company that got bought by Marcus was called Warenberg. That's where I used to work.
Yes.
And Warenberg,
times.
like I remember the stories from like the projectionists who had been working there for like 20 years, and his stories of like the good old days when Warenberg was the only game in town and they could literally do anything they wanted because what are you gonna do? Go to another theater? Ha 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 ha!
Well, that's going to
And
happen
that's
again.
what it's gonna be again.
Because I
Right.
think Marcus has enough money, even though they've been closed for 6 months, that they can reopen and make their money back. They just have to follow guidelines of the area they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
So as long as they're following guidelines, they can open back up.
And because of the,
But none of the
area,
none of the
that we're
Marcuses
in,
around, none of the Marcuses around us have opened up it yet.
like because of the area that we're in, we could literally like run the full gambit of like, you have to close down every other.
Oh, there is
seat.
one other theater company,
What is that?
B&B.
Oh, that's right. There
Don't
is a
forget
B&B.
about the old dollar show too.
St. Andrews. Yeah.
St. Andrews is probably going to run out of money because the backers that bought that from the last owner, they only have so much money too, and they haven't been open since either.
So St. Andrews used to be owned by Warenberg.
Really?
Oh, that's
Yes.
right.
Way
You're
back in
right.
the day.
That's
Way
right.
way back in the day, my head projectionist used to be the second in charge projectionist at St. Andrews back when it was owned by Warenberg, and he got transferred over to DePere afterwards. So yeah, this guy had been around for a long time.
But anyway, so with,
He was running experiments in their parking
it doesn't matter, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I may not travel for Ghostbusters to a different state to go see this movie, but I will definitely travel to a different state to go see Top Gun in theaters.
I would.
I will. Yeah, I would.
You would have to go to a weird state because Illinois
There's
is
a
even
lot-
worse than we
Illinois
are.
is worse. It would probably have to go north or south or even over into Kansas, but
Tennessee.
whatever.
That we totally do.
That might be a possibility. Anyway, so
Head to one of the southern states where they both don't care and don't have COVID.
So we're gonna, since we've kind of already gone through all of our information on Ghostbusters, I don't really have any recommendations per se, except for if you haven't seen Ghostbusters, go see it. There's a couple good movies that, like I said, Bill Murray and a couple of the other casts have done together, like Stripes and Belushi's done a bunch of great stuff.
Not Belushi. Belushi was who Slimer was modeled after.
No, not Belushi. What's his name? Dan Aykroyd. Sorry. Dan Aykroyd's done a bunch of great movies, like The Blues Brothers and
Coneheads.
Dan Aykroyd.
Coneheads.
I was gonna say, was it Spies Like Us?
Yeah, Spies Like Us.
That was a really great movie where they play spies and they have to go and run a mission.
So
in
my
Soviet
recommendations my recommendation for this is find the actors and actresses that played in these movies, the two movies, and just watch some of their other work. Because Rick Moranis, Sigourney Weaver, Aykroyd, Bill Murray, the guy who plays with glasses guy,
It's Harold Ramis.
Ramis.
Rest in peace.
Me and names, we know this. I've done enough podcasts. You know me and names. I suck at names.
It's okay.
But anyway, so that's the only real. I can't even talk right now. My only recommendation is just go watch some of their other movies. They may be a little older, but they are definitely worth it.
Yes.
So
I would recommend watching the real Ghostbusters TV show. It was actually really good.
yeah,
Yes.
that's animated though, right?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
animated that was very well
That
done.
was very well done.
I
done.
will say it took a big nosedive though when it became Slimer in the real Ghostbusters.
That's true. That was what, season 5 or something.
Yeah, when Slimer became an actual character with the
And-
Ghostbusters,
but-
it got kind of
It's weird because nowadays when you see kids shows, they become less kiddie over time.
Right.
This was the exact opposite. It became more kiddie.
yeah.
Right.
It was definitely
Well,
geared to a little
and-
older crowd, and then it kind of went kiddie.
Well,
Yeah.
an interesting fact about that show that I know of, and I told Nick about this a while ago, I think. I kind of follow Hollywood a little bit here and there. I haven't really as much here lately, but the original voice of Venkman for the real Ghostbusters was a dude by the name of Lorenzo Music, I believe was his name. He also did the voice for Garfield in the cartoons.
And Bill Murray was also Garfield.
Yes, and then Bill Murray turned into Garfield.
That's
So,
so funny. That was a big
that's-
giant loop there.
That's kind of amusing.
Right.
Yes.
So, but Lorenzo Music passed away, I don't know, sometime in the early 90s, I think, maybe. And then when he passed away, Dave Coulier, who we all know as Uncle Joey on Full House, took over for Venkman, and that's when it. I think the
Yeah.
Coulier did pretty decent, but that's just me. A lot of people disagree, but yeah.
Not a lot of people know this either. Ernie Hudson originally tried to be the voice of Winston,
But it ended up going to Arsenio Hall.
Yep.
Anyway, so Tim had a good recommendation. I mean, if you have anything, if you guys don't have anything that's cool, it's not a big deal because this is pretty straightforward
Watch
topic.
I
here.
second what Tim said, and you said. If you see the movies that the actors were in, at least watch Ghostbusters if you haven't seen it. It's worth it. And if you've got kids,
Oh yeah, if you have
and they don't
kids,
scare easily, I'd really recommend watching
Yeah.
the real Ghostbusters. It still holds up really well to this day.
yeah, even if you have kids that are even just a hair older that can handle a little bit of fright, the movies for those kids. I mean, even the filming and stuff. Yeah, it looks a little older. Some of the ghosts and stuff are kind of wonky, but you know what? The movie itself holds up.
Yes,
They
I
they
agree.
did a very good job of making
I
sure the movie
recommend
holds
highly
up.
watching Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. I love the Ghostbusters movies. I think they're great.
Yeah, I think
always
this is
have.
one of the only series where the second movie holds up very well to the first
Right,
movie.
and I've always loved Ghostbusters even before my husband became obsessed with them. So
All right.
there you go.
So with that recommendations and stuff done, I am gonna say talk at you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.